Join the conversation by calling in at 476-1045 or tweet into the show at 1045 The Team. It's Big Board Sports with Roger Weiland on 1045 The Team.
John Pricci, our WNYT racing analyst, reacting to the Belmont and reacting to a little bit of controversy, John, with Florent Giroux, the jockey aboard Restoring Hope, also trained by Bob Baffert, that perhaps he was nothing more than, say, an offensive lineman or a wingman out there to block all the traffic to help justify do what eventually he did. Do you buy into any of that controversy here on this Monday morning?
Funny you should mention that, because in my Sunday morning wrap-up, allow me to read 3 short paragraphs to you. Justified broke like a rocket and took the lead while uncoupled stablemate Restoring Hope, more of a pulling guard approaching the first turn, forced any would-be pace pressers out into the wide expanse of Big Sandy. Down the backside, Hope became a blocking back, applying moderate pressure, backing off a bit after a fast opening quarter mile. Of greater import, they made Justify's rivals adjust to the conditions, not the other way around. This played very well to the leader's strengths, and while some never seriously threatened at any time, 3 rivals did fire their best shots, but none could be described as serious Belmont adversaries during the late running. You know, here's the thing. The only thing that bothers me in terms of if it was, a Mike Rapoli who made those comments, he was hoping, he, of course, is one of the principal owners of Vino Rosso, and he was hoping that the other half of Todd's entry, a Noble Indy, who totally fell apart in the paddock, on his way to the post and so forth and so on, he's been a tough horse to work with, more mental issues than anything else. And he was, the Rapoli, that is, was depending on Vino Rosso, was depending on Noble Indy, rather, to apply a little pressure, a little pace pressure, which would have helped Vino Rosso. And Todd said on the final turn, Johnny Velasquez, tried to put a little more pressure on Justify. And to do that, he had to go around a rival and try to press the pace. This was at the same time, however, that Mike Smith was stepping on the gas pedal and creating some separation between Justify and the rest of the field. So, Mike, if you want to complain, it was another man's horse that you were hoping was going to apply the pressure to help you. And in the meantime, I feel bad about that and everything. But if Vino Rosso was good enough, then maybe he should have at least beat Hofberg for the show. Instead, he had to settle for 4th.
I couldn't agree more. And then the other thing, John, is that Rapoli was upset with Castellano. He was just ripping Javier Castellano about he did not do exactly what he was told to do. Bottom line here, in my opinion, if it's a part of the game plan, well, it was a heck of a game plan by Bob Baffert.
Absolutely. And talking about game plans, Mike Rapoli was depending on another horse who also is partially owned by Justify's people to go out and murder their more celebrated stablemate in an attempt to win a Triple Crown. I mean, that's not reality. Listen, I love Mike. Like me, he's a St. John's alum and all of that. And, I'm happy that he invented Smart Water and sold the franchise to Coca-Cola for $2 billion. But in the meantime, when he got into the game, he hooked up with Todd Pletcher, and he's had an unbelievable amount of success. Did he make investments in the game? Sure. But he got more than his investments out of it, and I think he should have said something more like, but you could say everything you want to say, but you got to add, but I'm tipping my hat to the winner. And I didn't hear the comment, I didn't hear the remark, but I take it that he didn't say that. That's not the end of his quote. And I think it should have been, because after all, it's supposed to be a sport, like the jockey's room and the training fraternity and everything. it's no different than like an NBA or a Major League Baseball locker room. Everybody wants to outshine their mates, but they're in this as a team. And that's what the racetrack community is about. It is about community, a bunch of friendly competitors.
Yeah, John, you mentioned that, and John Pricci joining us here on 104.5 The Team. And looking at that, you mentioned the camaraderie with the jockeys and the trainers, but to watch, like I mentioned earlier in the show, if you watch the 2004 Belmont, all the shots that were taken at Smarty Jones as opposed to the last two Triple Crown winners where they had easy leads and kind of just went around the racetrack, have you seen a difference in today's game as opposed to helping people get a Triple Crown as opposed to trying to take all their shots throughout the race?
You know, that's an interesting question. And yes, I was one of those in 2004 who noted the lengths at which some of the competition ran relays at Smarty Jones, and I had written previous to Saturday's race about how the Belmont Stakes in particular is not easily won, because when you come into New York, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And they make sure that they test you pretty good. And normally there are a number of fresh horses on the sidelines that take those kind of shots. Now, I thought, when I saw Restoring Hope, the wise guy of wise guy, I made a couple of misreads going into this race. And one of them was that, you know what, maybe they're going to send Restoring Hope to the lead. Mike is going to break sharply. He's going to drift out into the 2 or 3 path, and he's going to stalk Restoring Hope, just like he won the first 2 legs of the Triple Crown, and then make the winning move on the turn by going by the front runner, opening up the ground and winning the race. But instead, that's what I wrote Sunday morning. First, he's a pulling guard by forcing Noble Indy very wide into the first turn. And then he was a blocking back in that he was the stalker, so that if anybody wanted to put early pressure on Justify, they would have to go out into the middle of the track and lose ground. And those turns are mighty wide. You don't win at Belmont Park by losing ground while going 1.5 miles. So, yes, it was brilliant tactics on their part, and I'm not going to knock them for that. I mean, it's a chess game out there, and the Baffert team played it beautifully.
And finally, John, as we come up against it here, but I got to ask you the question, Travers in late August here, what is the likelihood that we'll see Justify and Bob Baffert in the field?
Well, I would think that he would try to do the same thing now. With him that he did with American Pharaoh. Should have explained that a little better. Pharaoh, of course, won the Haskell, and then he came to the Travers, but was beaten by Keen Ice. Now, this horse is a little bit more physically imposing. While he's not as maybe athletically gifted as American Pharaoh was in terms of his stride, because I've never seen a horse with that kind of mechanics. But this horse, he's generous, he's big, he didn't lose any weight during the Triple Crown Trail. That heel, that I'm sorry, it has to be bothering him, and to run through everything like that is an enormous thing. So yes, I think that we'll see them. Riley Mott, who is Bill Mott's son, had an interesting quote, too, that it could be a real interesting rest of the year in the 3-year-old division, but we've got to try to find a way to beat that one. And that's everybody's job, trying to beat that one. And, and you're going to have a couple of others to beat, too, because on the morning after, Good Magic worked a 1/2 mile and 50 on his way to the Haskell. And as I said, if all goes well for all of these horses, I can see Chad running 2 in the Travers. Todd will be in the Travers, you know that. And Bob will be there, too. And the confidence that he showed to try to win 6 races in 112 days, I would think that confidence stays intact, and he will be able to recoup a little bit, and then start to crank him slowly to the Haskell. I assume he's going to the Haskell because he's won the race 8 times, so why not win it 9? And after the Haskell, if all goes well, you got to go to Saratoga, and there will be a subtle amount of pressure placed on him too, because people like me will be clamoring for yet another rematch of all of these horses. And this is a talented group of horses, and he's beaten 35 of them. He beat 35 of them on the way to the Triple Crown.
John Pricci, our racing analyst at WNYT, reacting to the Belmont Stakes and the Triple Crown winner, Justify, and let's see how it all plays out between now and the end of August. Preach, thanks for a few minutes, and we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Thank you, Rod. You take care, fellas. Have a good day.
You got it. John Pricci.